with Frederika Roberts, who's part of Yorkshire for Europe. Morning, Frederika.
Good morning, Georgie.
So, look, you have a dual German and Italian citizenship.
Triple now, actually. I'm British as well.
Oh, my word.
As of the 12th of March.
She's got the hat trick, everybody. She can have a cheer for that. Look, how did you feel in 2016 when that vote came in, the vote to leave?
Devastated, absolutely devastated. I feel European through and through, but I have lived in the UK my entire adult life, coming up for 29 years later this year. So this is my home, and I just felt that everything that transpired, the way that the EU was being talked about, the way that people like me were being talked about, EU citizens, was absolutely horrific, and certainly wasn't the country that I'd grown to love and the country that I know.
You've touched on what I was going to ask you next. How did it impact on your life the last 2 years? How has that unfolded for you?
It's been a real roller coaster. I mean, clearly I didn't want us to leave the EU, and actually today I'm quite happy because today we're not. So we don't know what's going to happen next, but today when we were supposed to, we're not. But I felt devastated, as I mentioned. I felt, like so many people as well who voted to remain. You know, it was such a close vote, and yet all we've heard for nearly 3 years is the people have spoken. We've been ignored, we've been taunted, we've been insulted, ridiculed, called traitors, Ramonas, saboteurs. And people like me, EU citizens, have been told, well, go home if you don't like it. This is home. I have lived here longer than I have lived anywhere else by a good decade. So this is home. Where else am I supposed to go? My daughters have 3 citizenships, and they've been told to go home. They were told to go home. They were born in the UK.
How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? Because you've been rubbing alongside these people for as you say, the majority of your life has been here rather than abroad.
Yes.
So how does that make you feel? These are people that you would say hello to every day. How does that make you feel?
It's made me feel very sad, very upset that the country that I love has this very loud minority voice that actually seems to hate foreigners. And I think what the referendum has done is that it's legitimized those kinds of voices in a way that it shouldn't have done. I know it's a minority that hates foreigners. Lots of people voted for Brexit for lots of reasons, but the sort of the voices that tell us to go home if we don't like it, that call us names because we're foreign, that tell us off for speaking a different language, which is directed at tourists as well as people who live here. That is the minority. That is not what Britain is about. Britain is better than this. And actually to put one positive thing on this, the one thing that the last nearly 3 years has done is it has been amazing, the wonderful people that I've met, the growth of passion for the EU, which is now, the pro-EU movement is the fastest growing political movement in the UK, and possibly the biggest growing pro-EU movement in Europe, which is quite amazing.
What would you like to see happen now?
What I would like to see happen is for some real debate to finally start to happen, for people to talk about facts and not headlines that are going to attract just the media attention, etc. And actually the process that has started, I know a lot has been said about MPs got their day of looking at indicative, didn't decide anything, but actually that's not quite true. We knew that they wouldn't decide anything all of a sudden in one afternoon, but what it did start to do is start a conversation finally about how do we get out of this? And depending on what happens today, I don't want to make predictions, but I think it's fairly likely that the deal that even separating out the withdrawal agreement and the political declaration, I think is probably not going to get through, which means that there's going to be more indicative votes on Monday. And I think that's really the process that should have been happening 2 years ago, but finally it's happening.
Frederika, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Lovely to meet you.
Likewise.
Really nice to talk to you. Frederika Roberts from Yorkshire for Europe. Later on in the show, we'll get